Great teams of the past, whether they're APBA Football or any other company, great teams of the past are an endless source of fascination. You know you're going to get some powerhouse teams, a lot of offensive weapons, shutdown defenses, big points, big stats, all that. Just the best stuff out there. They're just a marvel of game engineering, really. They're some of the best that the company creates, and they're the most iconic names and the most storied franchises. But recently had a question about the 1950 Rams, and this gets us into another area of APBA football card identification. Went down that rabbit hole. So Eric Marks, thank you. This is for you. We had this is an interesting thing because, of course, in terms of APBA football, as we've said repeatedly, came out in 1958, is the 1959 edition with the 1957 season. This, by the way, is not a G-top, but we'll get to that. Now, sometime afterward, you started seeing this wonderful green brochure, various iterations of it. This is one of the oldest ones. This came with a 1964 game that we acquired recently. You can see at the bottom here that it's got a form A65. Now, generally, this number has varied according to year. So this came with a 64 game. The game came out in 65. I have another sheet here that came from a 1975 game that came out in, gosh, I think you already beat me to it, 1976. So we're going to go ahead and assume, at least on the basis of those two data points, that that is the year of the form. The year of the form's publication is that year at that bottom left corner of the back of the brochure. Noticeably, too, these forms are aged a little differently, and certainly this 64 one is letter size, the other is legal size, and then we've got some indications here. Of course, we know as to the year here, obviously summer fall 93. Now, of course, we know that in 1983, APBA created the master football game starting with the 82 season, and that's where things get interesting. And prior to that, as we've noted, prior to 1983, the game went from its original version to a mid-60s renovation and a 1972 renovation. So you've got three phases of the original game there. And G-tops play into all those eras. Now, what we're going to do here, you see these, we get the nice shot there. So let's now move this into, most of us can cite the original APBA Football G-tops from memory, the 41 Bears and Packers, the 42 Redskins, 47 Steelers, 48 Cardinals, 49 Eagles, 50 Browns and Rams, 52 Lions, 56 Giants, 58 Colts, 62 Packers. The 41 Giants were added later. The 57 49ers were originally issued, even though they lost the championship in the dramatic playoff game that Detroit won before they leveled the Browns in Detroit. We have later on, of course, the 68 Jets and 69 Chiefs and Vikings. But just like the game itself, these cards have been revised. So you really need to be careful about the coding. Now, of course, you've got the old big envelope cards here. You've seen, these are pretty evidently the old versions. That said, you can see the renovations and revisions to these cards here. So let me just put this back with, let's see, let's take these, trying to keep them in some semblance of an order. We'll put these back for now. Actually, we'll take these out for now. You know what? We're just making up as we go along. So you look at these older sets here, right? There's 58 Colts. First of all, you notice that the typography of the envelopes changes a bit. You went from that big slab serif there to that skinny condensed sans serif there, the bold version there, that lighter version there. There are many, many versions to be looking out for. Okay, Giants and Colts at 56 and 58, respectively. You see dramatic difference than the 41 Bears there on the left and the 42 Redskins on the right. But you've got these big envelopes. So let's look back at this 65, which is about the time, the 65 great teams of the past brochure. Now, of course, for every APBA football GTOP, there are about 10 APBA baseball GTOPs of various revisions. And I'll point you to the Zach handbook there. And let's see. And, then, of course, just for, let's get this out on the table here, you've also got the 1953 Browns and Lions of the World Championship set, the 59 Colts and Giants, 60 Eagles and Packers, 63 Giants and Bears, and 65 Browns and Packers. Not technically GTOPs. They were part of that 10-team World Championship set that came out in 72. But let's just kind of throw some of these in here to in our stack of different short envelopes here. And we'll see what we can work up here. So, starting with these old envelopes, I can tell you right now that if you pull this thing out, you see the original typography. That kind of orangey red, that orangey red back. It's thick type. Don Hutson, the first asterisked APBA player, the Arkansas Antelope, means that his receiver grade boost to the offensive index cannot be reduced by the secondary, no matter how many points they have, or whether using nickel dime in the newer version of the game. It's just really cool. Clearly, they match the typography of the cards and the envelopes. They're in alignment there. Now, you notice, of course, there are no allocation codes there for his receptions. You've got no usage of the K or the P column here. It's rudimentary stuff, For C. Sisbell, P1, that means that he's the most, since this is single platoon football, that P1 means he's the most frequently used passer, and then you have subsequent P2, etc., okay? So the typography gives this one away, and if you look at the brochure, how many GTOPs were there? Well, 41 Packers, the 41 Bears, let's go through them, the 49 Eagles, the 50 Browns and Rams, the 47 Steelers, the 48 Cards, did I say them? Where'd they go? Right over there. The 52 Lions, now it's got a different typography there. The 56 Giants, and the 58 Colts. So in 1965, according to this brochure, those are the teams you see. You've got those accounted for. That would be for pre-master games. Just check this Colts, this Lions team to see if that matches. And it did indeed, even though the envelope differs from that 41 Packers team, you still get that orangey back and that slab serif type. And you've still got OC, TC, you're not indicating K or P columns for those returns. You're seeing short B and long C, different grades for different types of pass plays, but you're not seeing allocation codes. We'll get to that as well. So even though the typography of the envelope changes a bit, you still got the big envelope, and you're still playing with the, quote, original boards up until at least the mid-60s. Okay, so we got that covered. Now, what happens as you go into the 70s? Well, you're going to see... And let me just move these out of the way here because it gets a little dense. Let's move these babies out of the way. And just a note while we're putting these away that GTOPs are still available at the company website, and any teams you buy now are compatible with any version of the boards that is available now. Okay, so now we're moving, though, into the 70s, and here's where things get a little different. Of course, in the 70s, they expanded the field goal range, they added the injury ratings, they added allocation codes for anyone who had an interception in the 72 season, and in 73 they went ahead and used that table. In fact, it's this table right here. They added that. They never changed it. It's the pass interception table, but they went ahead and started giving the same types of codes to anyone who caught a pass. It's a really cool system. It's very different than the allocation system that came out with the master game, and that is one of your biggest clues to what, season, what version of the season card works, with what board. So It's going to start going through here. The 41 Giants. Well, right away, we know these are all the short envelope versions. So let's start looking through for the telltale signs here. When you look at these 41 Giants, what do you see? Well, you see now that you've got the typography that matched the 1970 to 1984 seasons. You've also got, let's just look here if we have any of that fumble number, penalty number pattern, 61 and 62. Now, if you look back, we'll show you the video or link to the video to let you use that APBA Football Identifier chart at the beginning of the APBA Baseball Handbook by Ed Zach. So that's certainly a clue as to the year of issue and creation. Furthermore, you've got J codes, so you know they came from 1972 or afterward. And the codes are still up here at the top right. Okay, and you see that interception allocator code. So if you look, he is, what this means is 5 is that group of, that first number that you would look for. You would roll to see from 11 to 66 who intercepted the pass based on who's on the field. And what you see here in this pair of numbers is that there are 5 people in parentheses who got that W5 allocation. And this Lunday is 3 of 5. So you might have 3 guys on the field, W5, 1, 5, 3, 5, and 5, 5. What you do is, let's say if you wanted to get an interception, allocate that interception correctly, you would roll, say you roll 34, and you keep reading across until you find a number. Actually, let's find the one with the 5 up front. Let's just see. Where's the 2s and 3s? There's we go. So let's say we rolled a 63. You would then come across the W5, which is the first number on Lindy's card there. And then to allocate which of those 5, you go to this column with 5 there. And you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now he is 3 of 5. He's the third of the 5 people who got that allocation row or column, I guess. So he would have to have rolled, to allocate the interception to Lundy, you'd have to roll a 34 to a 44, or it goes to someone else. That is a dead giveaway as to what boards this set, this 41 Giant set, works with. In other words, it is not a master set. Doesn't tell you the year of issue. There is no copyright on here. Remember, the first copyright dates only appeared on the original 1984 season set. So this clearly is a 72 to 81 boards compatible set. Compatible with the boards in effect from 1972 to 81, the original sets. So I'm going to imagine that's going to be the same thing with this 41 Packers team. Okay. Now, let's go back to that original 41 Packers team. You will see the difference. Okay. Let's take a look at, let's take a look at Don Hutson. Okay, so this Packers team has a different typography. And let's find Mr. Hudson's card here, because it's going to have an allocation number on it. Okay. It's also got an interception allocation here. So apparently he played, when he was functioning as halfback, he had an allocation here. He did get an interception. It's got the J1 code, still top right. Still got the asterisk, but it's got that A9 behind it. So if you use this allocation chart for receptions, let's just see if we can find, if you rolled where a 9 would come up pretty early on. Of course, not seeing it. There you go. Let's say you roll a 53, bang, and you didn't have anyone with these numbers there immediately after the A, then A9, he's your guy, and he's your only one if you use that chart. So right away, we see the difference. Apple upgraded these cards, and let's just check the R columns as well. You'll see various differences. For instance, in the R column, he went from 9s at 31 and a 9 at 31 to a 7 at 31. You see his K column changes as well. So the typography, the numbers, it all changes. The functionality changes. Now, if you got a 41 Packers set today, it would have the master codes as well. That would be the QS SAC code. Okay. And well, that's pretty much, and V ratings for defense and possibly offense. Moving on to the 49 Eagles here. So you'll see there's a slight difference in the, very slight difference in the color of the type. You know, this is a brighter red, these 41 Packers and Giants. The Eagles type is just a touch more, a little more brick or black to it. But, and here's the Q, what did I just say? That QS code. Now, you see that the QS code has moved up here. So they're allocating sacks to Pete Pios. He's also a receiver, 87. I mean, it's a heck of a card. But most tellingly as well, you've got the J or injury ratings moved to the bottom left from the top right. That started with the original 1982 season because they were adding the QS ratings. And also, we'll find them in here, the V ratings. Okay, so you want to clutter all that up with the J codes. So starting with the original 1982 set, copyright 1983, these codes move to the bottom. That is your one of the dead giveaways for a master set. So is the QS code to allocate sacks, and so is the V rating indicating pass and run proficiency. He gets 3 points when you're playing in a pass play, 5 points when you're playing him on a run play. But the tricky thing is, you see that the envelopes changed, and both these short envelopes outside of the color, are kind of in that same era. So you might be a little, it might be confusing as to whether this is a pre-master game or a master game compatible set. Again, anything in the Stadium Shop renders it all moot. You buy the basic game now or master game now, and any set from the shop, it's got the completely different typography. It all works together. But if you're coming across these sets, a box like this, or these individual teams, you want to make sure that if you're, just helping a fella get some individual cards for some old sets today, you want to make sure you're getting the right cards to fill out your set if need be. Moving on to the 50 Browns and Rams. Well, now this is interesting because the Rams envelope is a little brighter, lighter red, and the Browns envelope is a little darker, more brick red. So let's see, could they have possibly created versions pre and post master? Well, now check it out. No, they did not. These are both master game compatible, as you can see by, again, the injury rating at bottom left with that italic J. Tom Fears, by the way, mighty Tom Fears, the original Greatest Show on Turf there. So you see, again, this is kind of, it's not quite single platoon at that point. You get more specialty, but you'll see, again, it's the codes, the allocation codes change noticeably. It's only a single letter after the receiver code there or the interception allocator there. And that is because the allocation method that came out in the 80s, which I really don't like, is what they had to do you had to take every team, any team you were playing, you had to add up all the codes for anyone who had a pass. A12 plus 7, and who else? You'd have anyone who caught it. You'd have to add all these codes up, and you would come up with that master, whatever range here you had. Then when you rolled for the allocation from 11 to 66, you had to read across, I think, and find out, so where's your 3 there, or something like that. I mean, I forget exactly how it worked, to be honest with you. I never liked it, but that is the significant difference between the pre-master and post-master GTOPs. The indication of the injury code at bottom left, the single allocation digits or numbers for interceptions, the W code, or receptions right next to pass receiving there. So again, these envelopes, are a little tricky, but you look at the typography of the rosters as well. The master versions have this really nice, tight, condensed type, a little clearer, a little more modern looking. If we look back at, say, the so when we just looked at the Packers and Giants, you see these individual rosters like that. Or, well, the 49 Eagles should be, since it was a master game version, we should see, there it is. Okay, so they kept issuing pretty much the same GTOPs, but they changed the functionality, the format, some of the codes. So now the 53 Lions and Browns, well, these are from the World Championship set. We know they're not technically GTOPs, but they'll often be sold with these GTOP sets. and they are clearly, with that injury code at top right, they work with the boards that were in operation, were in effect from 1972 to 1981, the original seasons. And again, if you look over here, you will see the, there's got to be the penalty fumble number pattern. Let's just try to find it. Of course, the well, now, since there was no original 53 season, or never fully carded season, so 52, 53, now 32 and 52, okay? 32, 52, there it is. I'm staring you right in the face. 32, 52, so we can check that against that APBA Football ID chart. Okay, but note again that all these GTOPs go with, they represent seasons that weren't fully carded. APBA never did a complete 41 set. They never did any sets prior to 1955. 1955 is the oldest year represented in a complete APBA football set. Then you go for the year, and that came out in 77, something like that. So these are World Championships sets. You can count them as GTOPs. So the 57 Niners came into question. Let's compare them to the original set. Okay, an original set, that orangey back versus a GTOP version. Let's see. First, if we can go by the roster in here. If we have a roster in here, well, this roster doesn't look like the more contemporary Master Game roster. It looks more like the pre-Master roster. Okay, somebody included, Red Grange apparently was, well, there you go. Nice. Love the little bonuses you find along the way. But if you look at the backs, you can see right there the difference, the red versus the orange. Slight difference, and certainly heavier weight there. But so again, let's look at how they took the original set. Let's just take, let's find a good quote. Let's take Mr. Tittle there and see how, again, you look at this, you see what? You see that 72 to 81 season style allocation for receptions, 1, and then 1 parentheses 5, meaning you can find, in fact, we'll find them here, all 5 of these guys, just to show you how you use that chart while we're looking for a Tittle's updated card here. And I see a single code there, but you see the double, the multiple little number code there. McElhenney 1, 2. Oh, there's Tittle. Wow. Deep in, he got some envelope burn there, I guess, somehow. But that's the way it goes. So if you look at, I'm just going to find these other, I want to illustrate the, okay, there we go. Got it. Okay. So this is the original APBA YA Tittle card, and this is the GTOP, or a GTOP, but it's got a short envelope that matches some of those master envelopes, yet the roster looks like those pre-master GTOPs. So here's the Tittle card. He retained his 5, kept his height and weight too. He's got obviously the injury code, and it's top right. Still got that pair of 1s at 66 in the R and the P column. They changed his K column. They gave him a 10 down there instead of the 11. Curious, wouldn't know why that would be. They changed his 33. They downgraded him from a 3 to a 5. So there's some calculation going on here. And 42, wow, went from a 10 to a 29. 44 and 45, originally 5 and 14, went to 6 and 9. So now, not having the boards in front of me and trying to compare all those, you can clearly see at least that there's some rework going on in these. Let's just go through show you again the 70s style allocation here. When you've got 5 guys with this thing, this code. So C1 is your kind of first grouping, and then from that point, you've got 1 of 5, 2 of 5, 3 of 5, 4 of 5, 5 of 5. And so again, with those 5 guys, you would use that 5 column, and Soltar would be up in there. You'd be rolling 11 to 22, and then Jessup would fall in that group, Barnes in that group, Powell in that group, Arenas in that group. So, a very clear indication that this is a pre-master set because the functionality is very different. So we've got those different shaped rosters and the different coatings. And I'll show you another one here because this, one of the classic teams of all time, of course, the 62 Packers, the frightening 49 offense, 47, 62 Packers. Now, I purchased this set in the mid-'80s, I think, during a warehouse sale. I believe I did, unless I bought it, I can't remember, with my original 78, 79 seasons, which arrived in 79 and 80. So these sets, clearly with these envelopes, they changed this envelope style prior to the master, era, okay? But they retain that style in the master era. These are all master sets, so I don't have to go through the envelopes there. So this is kind of a confusing point. When you look at these envelopes right off the bat, you might think, hey, these are master compatible, not so fast. This is the mighty 62 Packers, and again, it's got, you see that, I just had it, I thought. Again, that little salmon pink roster there, that's an indication that it's pre-master. Okay, so lots of little clues there. Obviously, you shoot us a note at applefootballcluboriginal@gmail.com. I lied. I'm going to go in here and show you that these are master sets. There you go. They changed the typography. Obviously, as years go on, you have to add great teams, right? So, there you go. The Vikings, clearly master with the V ratings, the Q code for sacks, and the injury rating bottom left with the italic J. And we'll just go ahead and show you that with the Chiefs as well. There's your roster, condensed sans serif, and some big bad boys there, the Q rating, the V rating, the J rating, okay, on all the appropriate master spots. So there you go. Now, let's just look here, because remember we did this brochure. This is the 65 brochure. Okay. Let's just get these babies out of the way. Obviously, again, well, there you see the 68 and 69 seasons. I mean, obviously, you had to issue these at some point. They didn't issue them until the master game. They figured, at that time, you figure, let's update our inventory. So there you go. But these 57 and 62 Niners and Packers, respectively, underwent at least an envelope change by that time. So that's where you get a little bit of confusion in the typography of the envelope. But let's just look at some of these brochures, and we don't have every year's, but clearly, you can see that the list of teams expanded. Now, we counted off all the originals in our set in this box on this chart here, this brochure here, including the 58 Colts, 56 Giants, slight change in the envelope typography. And again, if you think this is a lot to digest, the baseball side is a vast world. So this is the 76 brochure. We really need to find a brochure from, say, 79, 80, 81, because that will be the last pre-master era, and it'll show you, the 57 Packers there. 57 Lions there, rather. Remember, we didn't have, since this is 65, you didn't see the 62 Packers here, did you? No. 41 Packers, Bears, yeah, because the 62 Packers were, everyone was still too stunned to call them a great team in the past, so the 62 Packers don't make that brochure. They darn sure make this one when you get over to here. Generally acknowledged to be one of the greatest teams in NFL history, 13-1. I mean, that loss to the Lions. Just don't try playing as the 62 Lions. It's really bad. I'm thinking about playing the 62 Steelers season, but why bother when you got that juggernaut ahead of you? Just don't do it. Maybe play the 76 Raiders against the 62 Packers, something like that, or the 89 Niners, or the 84 Niners, which one of them went with only one loss, or the 85 Bears. The one-loss club is a cool one. Now, here you also see in the 76 brochure the introduction of the all-time A and B teams, the AFT, BFT, which you've showed before. And let's just do this without hitting the camera. So there you go. There's a couple of additions there. Short envelopes, 76. Typography matches the 70s typography. So look at the injury codes top right. You get that 72 to 81 era multi-number interception allocation code. You got the, again, there's Don Hutson. Now that is, and let's see, what year was that? Did they use this 41 card again? That's an interesting, no, see, that's his 42 card, because it's a better season for him. So he gets the asterisk again, 13-2-2. So someone else had about the same number of catches. Let's just see who that is. That's kind of crazy. Well, no, actually, well, yeah, since this is a different team set. Oh my God, Butkus and Hudson on the same team? Packers and, Ray Berry, there you go. So when you got these two guys in the game, 13-1-2, Berry takes the top half of that allocation table, right? So that's Berry there if you roll those numbers, and that's Hudson if you roll those numbers, right? That's how that works, but that's a 72 card. I mean, the GTOPs are just, particularly from the single platoon era, are just fascinating. I mean, the guy, the codes, he played end, EB, so flanker, whatever, halfback, D-back, quarterback, safety, defensive end, linebacker. I mean, it's six. They slotted into so many positions. It's kind of amazing. But in any case, so the AFT BFT set was around. Whether it was introduced in '76, we don't know, or rather, they were introduced in '76. We don't know. But I can tell you that they make that set, and clearly you've got the expanded GTOPs. So they've added with this brochure. You've got the going to, let's see, did they add the 52 lines? And they had the 52 lines. They carried them forward. But all these cards would have been revised for this era board. So we don't have the 52 lions that would be from this brochure. This 52 lions set in here, again, fits the old. Okay, so there's a lot. So there are at least three versions to get: the pre-master, the master, and then the current master, with at least the new typography. A bit of a type crash there. So the 52 lines on this brochure right here are not the 52 lines on this brochure, and that's why the typography and the coding comes into play. On the 76 brochure, in addition to the BFT and AFT, you've got the, there's the 57 lions right there. Niners, geez. I'm obsessed with the 57 lines, but there's that pre-master Niners right there. There's your evidence. And they added the 41 Giants, all right, who are not on. Were they? Oh, no, the Bears were the, yeah. They didn't have the 41 Giants originally, see, so you only had the 41 Packers and Bears. They added the 41 Giants in the 70s. And again, right off the bat, multi-number allocation code for interception, top right injury code. Clear as day. And there, at some point, at least in 76, we see a dimension of the 57 Niners. So clearly a pre-master set there. Now, if we go ahead to one of the catalogs post-1983, this 10 years after the introduction of the master game, we see that the football master card game, top pro clubs of the past, at a whopping 75 cents each, my goodness, include, there's the 69 Chiefs and Vikings, the 68 Jets. So they've added those teams. No Bears yet, interestingly. They never added the 85 Bears there. And you go back to the 62 Pack, 58 Colts, 57 Niners, etc. Buy a 10 pack, oh my goodness, for $4.95, less than 50 cents each. It's just killing me. Cards not compatible with current game, made for old football game. We'll see, there you go. There's yet another indication. So they were just trying to clear their inventory. So they didn't make a 62 Packers for the master game, or 58 Colts, or 57 Niners right there. Old boards. So even further, the 57 Niners again was a bit of a discussion there. Should we just take a look at that $1 million backfield for Ron Taylor, because that's one of his early ones here. God, man, Tittle got that envelope burn. Let's just find Mr. Joe Perry here. Let's see what else. Where are our guys here? RC Overdrive Owens, fantastic. There's the Jet, McElhenney, and who's the? Come on now, are we gonna do it? Do it right. Don't guess. Oh my goodness, Bab. Is it Bab? Well, there's Brody and Tittle there, and just had it. go. Is it Bab? I should know that. That's tragic. Well, Red Grange, if you got that extra Grange in there. That seems like a pretty darn McElhenney Owens. Oh, yeah, McElhenney Owens. Well, RCO. Right. Of course. That was the, there you go. That's really the, in any case, there you go. The classic cassette. How did they lose that playoff game in San Francisco? Well, we talked about it in that Lions book or that Niners book. We talked about those in our replay resources, so we'll give you some links to things. Hope that was helpful. Happy hunting. Grab these GTOPs. They're just a thrill to play. I mean, you know, I love the ones, masses of ones, and Brody too. Look at that. I mean, Brody's got 131, 1133, 66, and he's a 2-point guy, but he can get you out of a jam. How incredible. Now, we were saw Joe Moffa posted that the 8-4 Lions in his replay went 4-8, that 4-game swing. So, would the Niners have outright won that division? I don't know. In any case, we should post a snapshot of that, and we'll provide that timeline of evidence. If any of you happen to have a brochure, GTOP brochure, dated, say, from 78 to 82, that would be something we'd be interested in acquiring, and any GTOPs brochures from 83 to this kind of version would be we'd be interested in as well. I hope that helps you identify some sets. I mean, that's a tournament project right there. Just the great names. I mean, the 62 Packers, basically the team you never want to face because they're incredible on offense and incredible on defense. It's not like the 85 Bears where you can shut people down, but you can't move the ball that well. These guys are just going to slaughter you. So, Green Bay Packers, Lombardi, the great man, the great team. Go Pack.